All right, everyone. I'm excited to introduce my next guest, child star, superhero. This is recovering Mormon. That's right off your poster. I watch your one man show. American
Thank you.
voice. Yeah, I know, right? I come prepared. American voice actor Leonardo, Simba, Flounder, Snoopy, California Raisin. That's right at the top.
Deep
He-Man.
dive again.
He-Man. Oh my God. And then
Who is this person?
I mean,
Who are you
right.
talking about?
Jeff, stop with the intro. Get to the interview. He's done too much. But wait, there's more.
Indeed.
Indeed. Part of the King family, Tina Cole's cousin, author of Now They're All Here, the King family, over 100 years of entertainment from America's first family of song. Welcome to the show, Cam Clarke. Hello, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to have you here.
Where to begin?
I know there's like your IMDb, there's over 400 credits. I mean, that's not even touching the King family stuff. When I was interviewing Tina, your cousin Tina Cole, she was just raving. You got to talk to Cam. You got to talk to Cam. You know.
I'll give her 10% of I don't know what, something.
Love to talk about the King family, and what I can only imagine is a 400-pound coffee book. It looked. I have the PDF.
I should have. Oh wait,
I PDF.
Here, friends and neighbors.
Look at that.
This is the book in question.
If you're
you can use this for lifting weights for exercise.
If your coffee table has been reinforced, it can handle. Now they're all here, the King family. Talk to me about the King family, but put it in the perspective of the King family versus the Osmonds. Oh.
Oh, golly. The family was playing, this is like 1970, 1971. The Osmonds, of course, were massive. So they're over there at Caesar's Palace, I think. And King family is there at the same time, but we're like off Broadway, off Vegas. We're at the Landmark. Anyway, there was some local talk show that wanted to have both of us on, meaning the King family kids or, teenagers and the Osmonds who were teens and early 20s. Osmonds went on first, and they are so professional. And they all play 15 instruments, and they all tap dance, and they all, they're insanely talented. And it's our turn. And so what do you guys do to warm up? What do you guys do to get ready? We go to rehearsal. We go to movies. I'm planting a garden. No, it's totally incomparable that. I mean, but we have vocal talent like they do. And we've never worked together, danced around each other for decades,
I just thought it was funny when I was going through the book. When I got to that part, I'm like, oh, that's funny.
Oh, that's right. That story is even in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were when we're backstage, like in the green room, seeing the monitor, and we're seeing them go on about all their musical training and their schooling and their dance training, and we're like, what are we going to say? Somebody's got to come up with something. Our goal is not to be over rehearsed, you see.
Hey, whatever works for you. It's there was a show, right? The TV show, and like there's 37 of you. Like, how do you juggle? How did everyone get fit in?
Well, I mean, you can imagine we had a tour bus. We would also charter flights, not because we were all that, but we were just that many people. And so we would probably fly to our first gig, and then they were, the live tours were designed so that you could get on a bus and go from place to place. But we also had our key musicians and us. It was a scheduling nightmare as far as hotels go with that many rooms and stopping for meals and everything like that. In fact, I remember a couple of times when we'd stop at some all-night diner because it was the middle of the night. We hadn't eaten, left right after the show. And you can imagine 40 people getting off a bus and coming into your diner when there's a cook and a waitress. And there were a couple of times where we said, y'all go sit in the corner. We'll go back there. And a couple of my cousins made breakfast, were cooking stuff, and a couple others were being waiters. And we just kind of moved in.
I love that you're kind of just You didn't walk in there with like king family attitude. you're like
No, it
you're
was
like
pretty much,
very
we got
community
this
minded.
covered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, because the Osmonds would have been like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. What made you find? What made you put together a book? Like this is quite an
Well,
undertaking.
do you want the good answer or the shallow, bruised ego answer?
Well, the good answer, but if you want, you can squeeze in bruised,
Okay.
whatever you need to.
All of our history, tangible history, has been scattered to the four winds. The King sisters are long gone, and we kids have all their stuff, but scattered. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to get all this stuff in one place? And as the title says, I've got 100 years of memoirs and photography from vaudeville through my animation career. All of that, and people going through boxes and in attics and basements, and I had everyone write their feelings about our time together. I get them some key questions. I had read a biography by George Plimpton on Truman Capote, and he opens the book saying, if you want a straight biography, I recommend blah, blah, blah by so and so. And he goes off this list of telling people where to go if that's what they want. He created a book. He said, pretend you are at a cocktail party, drifting from conversation to conversation about Truman Capote. And I went, and it was beautiful because there was no like narrating or, explanation. And I loved that format. So I literally took King Sisters' diaries and memoirs and legal pads of things they'd written out. So for a century, no one is speaking of someone else. The whole thing is I and me and we. So none of us kids speak to the 1920s or 30s. The moms do all of the setting up of that. So I thought that was a fun thing to have. Nobody talking about anything unless they were there. Now, the shallow reason, the bruised, precious ego, a few years back, there was a book released, a biography of sorts of Bob Mackie, famous Hollywood costume designer. We were his first series as lead costumer. The guy who wrote this, there's a big page of us. And of course, there's more stuff on Cher and Diana Ross and Carol Burnett, of course. But he talked about our show being on for a season and a half in 1965. And then basically we all ended up in the unemployment line, which kind of, I went, I'll show you. I'll write my own book. No, it was just weird because obviously we did not. And if a shallow, fragile ego could get this thing made, then I'm glad I had that problem.
I understand the reaction. You want to control the story of your family and its history, and you don't want
Yeah.
some random memory. I mean,
We were around more than 12 months.
well, the show came on top of an amazing career with the King sisters, right? And
Yeah.
the King
Yeah.
cousins and
And quite accidental. It wasn't planned.
How did the show come about?
The King sisters, who'd been performing since they were kids in vaudeville and then radio and big band and all that stuff, were asked to do a fundraiser up at Brigham Young University. And my Aunt Yvonne said, hey, I got this wacky idea. Why don't we bring the kids along with us and put them in the act? And then how about the in-laws and blah, blah, blah. We kids had been raised under the piano with moms rehearsing and stuff. And the older kids had already been the part of the go-to voices when you needed children in your movie or in your soundtrack. And that a lot of the performers, the children performers on recordings were kids of famous singers and stuff. My cousins were part of Que Sera Sera with Doris Day or High Hopes with Frank Sinatra. My uncle Jim Conkling, who founded Warner Brothers Records, or was it Columbia? Anyway, he was president of NARIS, the Grammys. And he'd come home from the office and say to his kids, kids, I need you Friday night. We have a recording with Tex Ritter, or, you name it. And my cousin Jamie would say, and we'd go, oh, but Dad, I have a date with Joey. I don't want to. And he went, all right, rest of you? Yeah, I'm in. I mean, it was so like what we did. So Yvonne put together this show. I'm 6 years old when we started, and my first solo was Thank Heaven for Little Girls from Gigi. We just kind of went, okay. And we did a couple of previews down here in Los Angeles to just check out, see what we were doing. At BYU, Yvonne had the film department of the school with their big, like, just their, not super, but 16 millimeter, whatever it was, film it. She showed it to a friend of hers who had connections at ABC. So he got her an intro there, and the guy said, cut this down to an hour, all this footage from your benefit, and bring it to me, which she did. And they said, how soon can we get a pilot? How soon can we get a series on this? So it really was like, I have no rags to riches or, struggled. The family was born literally out of a benefit, and boom. Of course, as you said, the King sisters had been rags to riches since the Depression, but they had not thought of doing the family, and it was kind of surprising, I think, that it went over so well.
What year was this, the show?
Well, we did our benefits in 1863. So I think I was like 5 when we started, and then we did these benefits that were filmed in 63, early 64, and then ABC filmed a legitimate, they would have called it a special, but it was actually a pilot as well, which aired in the summer of 64. And then the fan mail response, like 65,000 letters to this pilot thing, got us on the air that January. Replacing what show, you may ask?
I know.
You do?
I do.
Tell the lovely people out there in TV land.
The Outer Limits.
Yes! You did do your homework.
You do the voice also in the...
Do not attempt to create, what is it? Not attempt to adjust the vertical. Do not attempt to adjust the horizontal. Loved that show.
Great show until your family ruined it.
Right? Right?
I'm trying to think what other like shows, what shows didn't you knock off the air that were on at the same time?
I'd have to get out some old TV guides.
Yeah. I was trying to think if there was other like variety type shows at the time.
Yeah, our testing, I'm sorry, I should have included that. When we did this pilot special, the network wanted to try us out. There was a show called The Hollywood Palace on ABC, which was kind of like their response to Ed Sullivan's show, but with revolving hosts. So many groups of us, always featuring the King sisters, did about 3 or 4 of these segments on Hollywood Palace. And the response was we got a good idea here. The people are liking these little snippets, so let's do it.
That's awesome. Besides, Tina Cole, my 3 sons, you went on to have a huge voice career, which we'll dive into. I know your dad was an actor, but that probably was before even the king.
He was like the king of the B horror flick in the 1950s.
I wrote down some of them. Amazing. I gotta watch all.
Are you an old sci-fi fan?
I used to remember watching them on
the Saturday afternoon monster show.
Yeah, exactly. When it wasn't Godzilla week or something, they would show right. Like Frankenstein Island, The Astounding She-Monster, The Man from Planet X. I hope that you have a room somewhere in your house of just the posters from your dad's movies.
Oh my God. If I could lift up this computer and turn it around in this spare bedroom, the artwork for these cheap films is the best part of the movies.
The posters are incredible. Stunning. Incredible, the posters.
And the background stories I have about some of these movies that had no budget, like The Astounding She-Monster. Just for example, there's a fight and they only could afford 1 piece of candy glass for the fight scene where he goes through the window. The guys, as they're setting it in, it shatters. So they have to film the fight. Whoa! And then cut to him on the ground because there's no window to go through.
That's the ingenuity that makes those old movies so great.
Oh, yeah. And the gal that played the she-monster had this sparkly onesie, right? They only had one of them, and her zipper broke. So they put safety pins, but she could never turn around to leave the room. So she kind of exits like this, backing up, which is great, which should have been all along.
That's amazing. You made me think that when I was talking to the folks from Land of the Lost, there only were three slee stack costumes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, the
And when
old
Dad
TV
made
show.
the Hideous Sun Demon, it was cast with our family. Aunt Donna was in it, cousin Zan, Del Courtney, Yvonne's husband, and Aunt Marilyn recorded the theme song and wrote the theme song to the movie, which I don't think was ever commercially released.
Which is a shame, right? We
It's
need to
pretty
start
awesome. It's pretty 50s kitsch,
yeah, we should
kind of
start
a
a
Julie
campaign.
London feel.
Do we have a copy of it somewhere? Can we start a
In
campaign?
the, in yeah, play Hideous Undooman on your movie. I mean, on your show, and you can cut out the where she's singing
Right,
and
because who can afford
see
that?
it'll go viral. It'll go viral.
Are there any other members of the 37 clan that did outside of the King fame, like you and Tina and your dad? Like,
Tina and I are basically the only blood ones of the sisters, but like I said, my dad had this career. And in the book, there's these insane the movie posters that he's talking about are in the book. Some great pictures of that. But some of the husbands, like Buddy Cole, who was married to my Aunt Yvonne, was the go-to guy for piano and organ and he had his own trio, recorded many records. Donna's husband Jim, as I said, was founder of the Grammys and he discovered Bob Newhart and the Everly Brothers and stuff like that. So he was really good with A&R,
and Tina
artists and
too.
repertoire.
I think Tina too, he helped.
Yeah.
So who helped you get into the voice acting?
My brother was an associate producer over at Warner Brothers at the time. And he was working on a spin-off of Dukes of Hazzard called Enos. That's right. No. Enos. I think it ran for like 2 seasons, but there's an
That's
element
more
of
than
voice.
the King family show ran. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, have you been reading the Bob Mackie book?
I remember Enos. I loved the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, you're one of 4 people besides the cast that would remember Enos, I think. But
Roscoe P.
there's
Coltrane, J.D. Hawk. I remember them all.
there's an element of voiceover that a lot of people don't know about called looping, where there's a group of actors who come in during the post-production process of a show, and we do all the fight grunts and the zombie. And if you're in a bar and the TV is on in the background, the football game, we do all of the sounds that are not the leads, even though we often would do their kissing and their sex scenes and their running and stuff. And I met a couple, and my name got passed around, and I was over at Columbia, and I met this couple. And long story, not so long, they came up to me and they said, "Have you ever?" And I was just doing this for my brother, making some good money, but it wasn't really something I thought it was going to be my career because I was going to be a movie star. Thank goodness that never happened. But this couple that was on this job at Columbia, they kind of said, "Have you ever thought about doing this as a career?" And I'm like, And she says, "Well, we think you should." And they literally swept me up in their arms and introduced me to an agent, got me a coach for animation and a straight coach for radio and TV spots. Pretty Cinderella, because I didn't even know this was really a field. And then here all of a sudden I'm in it. I'm going, oh, this is pretty groovy. I'll stay here.
The list of voices that you've done is insane. And there's a couple that I wanted to call out specifically. Before we get into that, you were Godspell. Did you say you're the understudy for Jesus? Did that mean you played it
They
sometime?
had a 10-year reunion here in LA, and they needed an understudy to cover Jesus and Judas. And I got the part of that. And I mean, Godspell was my favorite musical growing up and knew every song by heart. So even though I was just the understudy and I only got up once, I loved it. They had me running lights when I not being on stage. And even though I never got up much, it was a wonderful experience to be with a lot of the original players who, as a in junior high, I would play their record and I knew their voices and all of that. So as a fan, it was really a treat. But I think part of the reason I got the job is because I looked like Godspell with my afro and beautiful curly blonde hair. And I got a job doing a army training film or something. So I had my hair all cut off for this. I show up at rehearsal and they're like, what did you do? Where's the hair? Like they'd really hired the hair and the person underneath it was just had to come along. So they were disappointed by that, but I didn't wear a wig.
That makes you my second Jesus on the show. Ted Neely being the first. Now I've had.
Don't even. I have met him on the convention circuit, and Yvonne Elliman, who played Mary Magdalene in the movie as well. I met her and I said, I am not worthy. You were like my first crush and all of that stuff. And they were delightful.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing.
Have you had him on your show?
Yeah, I interviewed Ted Neely. It was definitely one of my favorite interviews.
Oh, great.
Definitely a fun guy. And then you were Mr. Fantastic. You were Reed Richards for 2 episodes in Spider-Man, the animated series.
Yes.
Making you my
A lot of these credits, I don't even remember.
Well, here I am.
At the conventions, people will come up to have me sign something, and I'm like, was I in this game? Yeah, you played this person. I went, if you say so.
Well, with Fantastic Four coming back around, you should be like digging those up. That's the thing. So that you're now my second Reed Richards. The first was
I'm probably your 7th or 12th.
No, how many people are Reed Richards? I'm saying on the show that I've interviewed, Alex Hyde White was in the Roger Corman one. So that's there you go. So those pop out. Sometimes I look at the IMDb. I'm like, ooh, these are interesting. I like this. Now let's. I'm sorry. Crazy story. All right, talk to me about the Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Leonardo. You're Leonardo. I mean, do you ever go
leader?
Like, hey, I'm friggin' Leonardo.
The OG Turtles.
1987.
Yeah, we did a 5-episode test, which could have ended after 5 little episodes. When we're doing our talking to fans and stuff, when we go to the conventions, inevitably someone will ask, what was it like to get the role of the Ninja Turtles? And we all are very honest with, and we were a tight group then, of those of us that were working a lot. It was a small community and we worked a lot. And you learn not to put any weight on a job you've done. So we got a job, which meant, there's 5 episodes. Okay, 5 paychecks. That's awesome. Okay, see you. There's no way to know if it's going to hit or not. Great scripts have failed. Stupid scripts have been hits. So you don't think outside of the audition. And we were auditioning every day, and you'd get parts and go, good, I can pay my rent, and then some. But it wasn't till way after the first season aired completely that we went, what the hell is this? Over at the Toys R Us, there's like 15 aisles of just turtle stuff. So it was pretty amazing, but you can't know that until it becomes true. Like my mom taught me, who is all in my family, we go glass half full, glass half empty. And my brother and I would say, what glass? Because we were raised by our mom. And she said, I don't believe it's really happening until I'm sitting at home watching it and the ending credits go by. Then I know it happened.
It's a good philosophy. I don't like if I have something coming up, I don't tell people about it until it's done. Because I'm like, it's not real until it happens.
Yeah. And it could have flopped. It could have been 5 and done.
So when you tour the Comic-Cons with the other 3 voice actors for it, there's an interesting story in your book about how you almost were, but then it didn't turn out to be Michelangelo. Like there was a
they knew. They definitely knew they wanted to be Donatello, and they definitely knew who they wanted to be Raphael. And they definitely knew they wanted Townsend Coleman and me as well, but it was a toss-up, literally, as who was going to be Michelangelo and who was going to be Leonardo. So we are in the studio, and they literally toss a coin, and we called it, and Townsend ended up being Michelangelo, and I got Leonardo, and they told us that we were going to switch after the first rehearsal. Then we'll try it the other way, and see what we like. So after the first rehearsal, they go, okay, everybody, that's great. 50-minute break, and then we'll record. And I went, excuse me, are we going to switch? Because you said we could switch. No, we're good. Yeah, but you said, no, we're good. We're fine with this. So that's how that came to be. And I was always jealous because I wanted to be Michelangelo since I was raised in LA. I'm at ground zero of that voice. I can remember kids in my junior high who just started talking like this, and my friends were going, what is that accent? But I was able to employ that voice on Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and Denver the Last Dinosaur. So I did get my surf boy out there.
Yeah, I think you were just at the Motor City Comic Con not too long ago with the other folk. You can see my background. I like Nicole's all the
Yeah.
way around, but like I love going to Comic Cons. What I've noticed, I don't know if I've just started noticing it, but the voice actors, you can't get near them.
Especially the anime actors, the kids that do, the Japanese, which is called anime, their lines are out the door and around the block, which is, I am so happy for them because dubbing pays crap. So, and because it's Japanese, it's not new material. It pays really badly and there's no residuals. So these folks are on these big hit anime shows and still wondering how they're going to pay the rent or baby needs a new pair of shoes. And these conventions are providing a career for people. And a lot of us that are, it's just amazing. Rob Paulson, who's huge in the voiceover world, Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, he called me one day saying, Cam, you got to do this Comic-Con thing. I've been doing them and blah, blah, blah. And I so hate people that I went, yeah, and I said, besides, Robbie, who's going to want our autograph? Proved me dead wrong. I also didn't know that these shows were equally about nostalgia. And the kids who watched us at the time are now entering their 30s and such, which is when you start as an adult, you kind of look around and go, wow, how did I get here? You hit 40 and it's, wait, how am I 40? So these people love the shows. And so we get paid terrific money to go around the country and have people say, thank you for my childhood.
It is amazing. I feel it too when you meet people. It's amazing. Like the connection people will feel when they meet you that grew up and just love that cartoon. Yeah, plus you must hand
Do you
over
do the
fist.
circuit? What do you
No, I'm
do?
not
Are you on
famous at
Comic
all.
Cons? Oh, when
I
you
just
had all these pictures, I thought
I
maybe you
go to the
were.
Comic Cons and I meet people.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm a fan. That's how the podcast kind of started. It was just like, oh, the people will talk to me. Oh,
also, all of us can be fans of something or someone. So to be in the green room with Barbara Eden, who's 90 plus and looks amazing, wearing, 8-inch heels. She's great. And other Paul Williams, the composer. And it's just been terrific. I had one story with Mackenzie Phillips. Have you had her on your show?
I have not, but anyone I'll take.
Okay, yeah. She was on One Day at a Time.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
her,
daughter, the mama, and the papas.
yes, and she had quite an abusive childhood, and it's quite documented about her problems with drugs and stuff and addiction. And she now runs a facility. I mean, I don't think she owns it. I don't remember exactly, but she's a higher up at this foundation to help people, kick drugs and stuff. She's sitting at one table in the green room, at the next one, and she turns around and looks at me, and she goes, "Do I know you?" And I'm going, "I know who you are, but I don't think so." "Yeah, I do. I must know you." I went, I don't know how, because I do voiceovers. And she goes, "It's not that." So I finally went, "Well, I was a child performer, and you probably never heard of this show, but a show called The King Family, a musical variety show." Her jaw drops, her hands come up to her face like this, and big tears. So I was just so tickled. But with both the King family
Love
and
that.
the Turtles, for example, and I never would have seen things this way because fortunately I had a sweet childhood performing with my family and all. But we get stories of people coming up to us who said, my parents were alcoholics and watching your show gave me a safe place. Or I had no siblings and I could pretend you were my brothers. Likewise with the King family, people who didn't have a troubled home life liked it, but the people who did found a superpower with these titles, King family, Turtles, what have you. So it's very humbling and surprising to hear these stories and how we played a part in keeping them safe. And never it's never a thing that gets lost on me or gives me a fat head because I don't get it. I don't get it. How are we treated like this?
It's amazing,
Especially
though.
as a cartoon that would have that kind of power with children. But it does, and I accept, and it's been a great third act getting involved with the convention circuit.
It's great to hear those stories, I can imagine. And like, it's nice when I talk to people who do the Comic Con circuits and they get stories like that also. And it's like, you don't, it's nice to know that you were there for people who needed you.
And we get some great comments that we use in our Q&As and stuff like, Mr. Clarke, I just want you to know you're my second favorite turtle. Well,
Let's be
good.
honest.
Number two, I
Leonardo's no
try
one's favorite
harder.
turtle. No, just kidding.
And the guy who plays Donatello, he told me last weekend that a person came up to him and said, what does it feel like being the least popular of the turtles? So a lot of these folks have no filters, as you might imagine, but we take it in stride.
It's like there's no such thing as bad pizza. It's like there's no such thing as you're in the top four of the turtles no matter what. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
can
yeah.
take that. You can take it. Talk to me about you do a dead on Matthew Broderick. Let me ask you, I do have a question for you about that actually, which
I apparently had I mean, I don't in any stretch of the imagination pretend I'm an impersonator like in my generation, Rich Little, for example. But I did have an ear for it. So when I'm 7 years old on the King family, I'm doing Jimmy Durante. And in our Halloween episode, I did the opening of Alfred Hitchcock with, good evening from his show for any of you who are old enough to remember the opener to his wonderful series. And Matthew Broderick, who was the original Simba, is just someone who I had in my hip pocket when I'm reading copy auditions. I would use Matthew Broderick, John Travolta, Robbie Benson, and believe it or not, Sly Stallone as icons when I'm addressing, a piece of copy. I want to channel them like for my first take. I channeled Stallone when I auditioned. In California, we had this, there was this campaign for the Milk Dairy Association that was milk. It does a body good. So I went in there thinking of Stallone. I went, milk, it does a body good. And I booked it. Done. I played Matthew Broderick. Disney used to produce albums of a lot of their hit movies. And so I booked doing him in War Games. Jennifer, how can anyone get a D in home ec? And I would riff on sessions with his voice, and the other actors loved how spooky it was. And one day, a dear work friend, Jim Cummings, who was Tigger and Pooh and on, was at Disney Character Voices, which is a division of Disney that only deals with keeping their iconic characters sounding exactly like they always did. So you are officially Snow White, or you're officially Captain Hook, or Simba. And so Jim Cummings is there, and they're going, Matthew doesn't want to come back. I don't know what we're going to do. We have to find someone. And Jim goes just very nonchalantly, well, Cam Clarke does a really good Matthew Broderick. So they brought me in, and I kind of think on Jim's recommendation, it was more of a meeting than a true audition. But Kira, how can you not want to be queen? Well, that's like saying you don't want to be a lion. We are all part of the circle of life. The rest is history, ladies and germs.
So I guess, does Matthew Broderick sign off on the likeness of his voice?
Well, because it's not, likeness of his voice. I think when he says, I don't want to do it, never been asked that. I would, I honestly don't know what the contract would be. But so here I'm getting to play in the second movie, Simba's Pride. They've hired me. I'm 4/5 of the way through the script, and he changes his mind, Broderick.
No.
So they come into one session. I've been working on the show for about a year, right? And they go, he wants to come back. So we're dumping your tracks, but we do prefer your singing voice. So I got to sing the theme song, which fans loved, the second movie, a song called We Are One. And then I've been Simba in every other incarnation, various cartoon shows, or if there's a cartoon on the cruise ship or the theme parks, that'd be me.
Yeah, the only reason I was asked, I was interviewing Jeffrey Weissman, who was in Back to the Future 2, Crispin Glover's character that they made him look like Crispin Glover, and then Crispin sued and then won.
Oh, I don't know that story.
And so, well, you can listen to my podcast. No, just kidding. But so that's why I was curious, like, because if someone's listening, they'll be like, "Oh, that's Matthew Broderick," right? To your credit, but to him, he'd be like, "Wait a minute."
Well, whether
I'm curious,
it was in his contract or
must be, right?
not, it was fine because I think a lot of the people that do the leads, the stars, they, don't need the money or are done, whatever, moving on kind of thing. So I'm glad he
I'm glad
want to come back.
He-Man. You are He-Man and Prince Adam.
Yes, in the 2002 reboot.
I'd love to hear the story, but tell me the story, then I have a follow-up question.
It was produced in Canada, and I got a call for an audition for him saying they can't find anybody in Canada, which is seriously, they want, unlike in the original, I guess they had two actors, one to play Prince Adam and one to play He-Man, and they wanted this to be, come from the same actor. And I had a great range of teenager to 800-year-old wizards in the forest, right? So to me, I was like, I got this. And I did. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. There you go, folks. There you go.
Well done, sir. Are there any voices that you've done, or I should say, which voices that you've done? And I recognize earlier you said some you don't even remember doing, but are there any of them where you go to yourself like, oh my God, I was.
Mean in a good way?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, I guess you could say a bad way might be a more interesting answer, but yeah, good way was my intention.
Well,
oh my God, I was He-Man and I was Snoopy and I was like, you know what I mean? It's and Leonardo. All those are pinch me's, right? I mean,
the one that got, well, again, sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that I was a successfully working voiceover guy. So to get He-Man was awesome, but it's not like it was my first gig, and I'd been doing leads in cartoons and stuff. So it was great to play that iconic character. But when I booked Snoopy, which was from my childhood, like these kids who had turtles, sleeping bags, and pajamas and everything, in my day, Peanuts and the gang, Charlie Brown and the gang, the merchandise was insane. In fact, Snoopy, there's still Peanuts merchandise. Anyway, to land that part and know that Charles Schultz, the creator, hand chose me, which I actually didn't know that until he passed away, I was in tears.
Wow, that's amazing.
And a lot of people will challenge me. They go, "No, but Snoopy never talked." I go, "Well, there was a window." "No, he never talked." I went, "Okay, well, you must be right." But they animated a Broadway show called Snoopy the Musical. And there was a talking Snoopy doll that was like Teddy Ruxpin and stuff like that. So there was a window in the late 80s when they needed him to sing and talk. So that was probably the role that I'm most proud of, being a part of that legacy, that I grew up where those characters were my best friends.
I love that. Let's see, what else? You got California Raisins. Talk to me about California Raisins. I love the California Raisins.
Did you see the series? It was short-lived. It was 13 episodes. There was the huge commercial campaign.
Yeah, the commercial
um,
campaign and the Burger
that
King
spawned
characters
the
or whatever.
the cartoon series.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little story I guess I can share here. Don't hate me when I share this. When they cast us, there was two black guys and two white guys, and there came complaints that they should be black since they're singing Motown. And we are like, well, raisins are if you want to be technical, they're purple. So they kind of let Jim Cummings, the guy who got me the Lion King. It was Brian Stokes Mitchell, who's a huge Broadway star now, Dorian Harewood, an amazing actor and singer, Jim Cummings, and me. So they dropped Jim and me from the project, and they held another round of auditions with no names, and they included us. And both Jim and I got the parts again.
Oh,
So
that's hilarious.
I was so nervous being around these great singers. I started really doubting, and it started showing up in my performance. And I found, we're doing all these great Motown songs, and my little step out solos are being taken away. I'm not being featured much at all. And this isn't ego so much as, what am I doing wrong? I can hear my singing is not what it's supposed to be. Flash forward to singing the theme song for Lion King 2, and that was with Hans Zimmer. Name dropping who? Me?
What?
And I get in the recording studio, and I'm nervous, and I just come off the Raisins and blah, blah, blah. And he goes on the talk back from the booth. What's going on in there? I'm not going to attempt his accent. He's got a gorgeous voice. He says, come into the booth. Of course, that's like going to the principal's office. You could either be class president or being suspended. I go, I'm fired. I'm so fired. And he says, we chose you for a reason. You've got this. You just need to get out of your own way. And that's not a new thing for humans to know about, but sometimes things you've heard your whole life, they click, even though we've heard many things before. But to hear this legend, this giant legend of Hans Zimmer say, you've got this, stop getting in your way, it just kind of clicked. And I was back. I was better, and I was not afraid.
What was your favorite Motown song to sing?
I auditioned with Dancing in the Street. Calling out around the world. And, who doesn't love every single Motown song? And I can't do it anymore, but I would do the Michael Jackson, the woo! I can't get up as high as I used to, but I was basically the lightest voice, and kind of employed my speaking voice kind of like this. So it kind of sounded like it. As bebop.
Dancing in the Streets was Martha Vandell, right?
Yes.
I interviewed, his name was Mickey Stevenson. He was the A&R man for Motown, and Martha Reeves was his secretary. And she was trying to break into the music. And it was supposed to be someone else to sing that song. And they tested it with her. And it was one of those moments where they're like, yeah, we got to tell that other person they're not singing this song.
Why did they need it like a demo real quick? Yeah, and the one they wanted wasn't available? Or
they were just running it. They were all there late at night and all that kind of stuff. And it was like,
wow. The King sisters, their beginning was not dissimilar. They were charting on the radio and stuff, but they were playing at the Rustic Cabin in New Jersey. And they get a call early one morning from New York from this theater saying, Dinah Shore has complete laryngitis. She can't even whisper. Can you guys how soon can you guys get up there? And that's when their profile just went boom for filling in a huge theater for Dinah Shore.
And sometimes how it happens, right?
Yeah. And then when they decided to recreate their career in the 50s, like always in Hollywood, they were considered old news and nobody wanted to sign them. So they had this friend over at Capitol, they said, we're going to change our sound. So they dropped their keys, sang a lot in unison, and it was more jazz. The guy took them into the suits at ABC and said, hey, I discovered this girl group. I think you're going to love them. They're really hot. And they listened to the demos and they went, love it. Bring them in. Let's sign them up. And then they find it out it's the old King sisters at the ancient age of 40. But
Corday, you mean the Grandma
and
King
and and
sisters?
and Esquire named them the best up and coming new group after they'd already been performing since the early 30s.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like your other audition where it was blind and they still picked you anyway. It's like when
Yeah.
you remove these biases that we just layer on that are meaningless, you can get the real talent out there.
And the
Uh,
other performers did not have a problem with, because both Brian Stokes Mitchell and Dorian Harewood, they're African American. In my world, I think also because we came from a voice world where your visual is not part of the process. So there was a lot more imagination and allowance of like, well, if you sound right, I may not look, well, now I look like an 800-year-old wizard, but in my 20s, I got to play, or He-Man. No matter how much I work out, I will never have those pecs or those thighs. Jeez.
Same.
Or the furry Speedo. I guess I could buy one of those.
You could buy one. Yeah. Flounder. That's another one from Little Mermaid. Flounder.
Yeah, in the second movie, the kid who played young Flounder, his voice had changed. And so he was in a right vocal place, but he just didn't want to. So I got an audition. They said, here's the tracks to the original kid. What would he sound like when he's grown up and has kids of his own? The kid kind of had he had kind of a adenoid thing, and his voice kind of cracked like that. So I just kind of did him like this. Hey, Ariel, talking like this, but he's a grown up, he wears glasses, but he's kind of got a little thing in his nose.
Glasses. Oh, man. And then Tales from the Crypt, was that acting?
I talked earlier about looping.
Right.
I'm a contractor, and so my actors, we would go in each week and do all the monsters and death rattles and being your throat cut by a werewolf or whatever. And there was an animated episode one week about, I can't remember the exact title, but it was Big Bad Wolf and the Three Little Pigs. And I played Piggy, and a very dark, very bloody, very violent version of it. And I'll get people come up and go, yeah, but are you selling a picture of Piggy from Tales from the Crypt? So that was just because they already knew me. And that was a wonderful, wonderful episode. I loved it. It was really funny. I get, playing against the, who's afraid of the big bad wolf? As we, the piglets, are chopping up with an axe the wolf, and there's, blood everywhere. So right up my alley.
Amazing. So many. Do you have a favorite one that I did not call out?
You mean a show that I did?
Yeah, or voice, anything like where you're like, no one ever brings up.
Yeah, there was a voice that I had found walking down the street one day, and I slipped on a voice, and I knew that at one point somebody would want this voice for a show. And I auditioned for it pretty much most of my career. And then someone did choose it for a feature called The Barnyard. And then there was a spin-off, a series called Back to the Barnyard. And the voice was like this. It's Freddy the Ferret. And I've always loved Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder, like in The Producers. When he would freak, his voice went like this, or in Young Frankenstein,
Right.
And I went,
you
I
get
love
nothing.
the way,
Right.
you get nothing. It's alive. And I love the way he shredded his voice. And I was able to find that in a safe place, because one thing you tell kids is never audition for something if you can't sustain it over the length of a show. Anyway, I just gave him this little kid thing with this shredded thing like Gene Wilder. And I finally booked it on this show. So it was my favorite pairing of a show with a voice.
That's amazing. I feel like,
and kids, if you buy the book, there's a whole chapter on me in there, so you'll get to relive this podcast.
Cam slipped in an entire chapter on him. Oh, he wrote the book, so he deserved that. Hell yeah. So I figured with the Turtles, which keeps coming back, and then the work you've done in Star Wars, the video games, and the Clone Wars, and Star Trek, and Professor X in the X-Men series in 2011, 12 episodes of Charles Xavier, you're pretty much locked in for life. I mean, these are like, these franchises. I mean, and Snoopy. I mean, like,
Well,
I mean,
au contraire, my friend.
I mean, for
We were
Comic Cons.
shocked with the Turtles when they did not ask us to do that first movie. We thought, we're part of the hit machine. You're going to use new people, but they had a master plan, and it certainly has worked out for them. Every incarnation, every movie has a different set of voice actors. In my brain, it's like, well, no, I want to hear Velma. So like Velma, I don't want someone else's take on it, but it has worked for this. You got everybody under the sun has played the Turtles. I shouldn't say everybody, but there's been how many incarnations?
Maybe. I was the Turtles last week.
Yeah, see? Singing telegrams? Is that and somebody wanted a turtle?
What I meant was from a fan perspective for these Comic Cons.
Did you go? Did you do cosplay?
No, I'm saying like your fan base being a part of each one of these things is where you're locked in. That's where
Or how about trick or treating when you see turtles come up and they can't look at you and go, hey, that's the real dude. So you just take it in. However, the Halloween 1965, when the King family was first on and at our, just height, my cousins, Jamie and Zan, the Conkling branch, were giving out the candy. And one of the costumes Bob created for the kids was go-go boots with white sweaters with their names on them. Bing bong, they go to the door, and here is two girls dressed literally. My two cousins are Jamie and Zan. These two girls come trick-or-treating as who? Jamie and Zan. And that was pretty wild because they are those people. It's not even a character. So you have someone show up at your door as you.
That's a great story. You don't, yeah. That's a story that sticks with you forever. You tell that story over and over again.
Yeah.
People will tell these stories over and over again. Cam, thank you so much for hanging with me and sharing all these. I know there's 1,000 more we could have got to, but I think this is a
appreciate
good
you having me on. Shameless plug. You can get my book, Now They're All Here, which was taken from the one line my grandma ever had on the show. My publisher is Rare Bird, and you can find them at rarebirdlit.com. That's the plug. There's the plug.
Yeah, of course, the plug. Get the book if you're a fan of nostalgia, the King family, all the above. Cam, this book is a must-have. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'll put links to it in the show notes. And
great. Who was your favorite interview? I know I'm your second favorite turtle.
You're second,
but
no, you're my first favorite turtle. Well, of course, I love talking to Tina, so I don't want to like.
Yeah, she's family. You just said that.
I have to say that I brought up Ted Neely earlier, and I really enjoyed talking to him, and it just for some reason I don't know, we clicked, and we had a good time. It was funny. I got someone emailed me or tweeted at me or something once, and I was like, I really enjoyed your conversation. I've never heard you made Ted laugh a lot, and that was really nice. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I was like,
well, when you played Jesus for 40 years, it's hard to find a laughing place,
Yeah, I mean, it was. Well, the interesting thing is, I'm Jewish, so I'd never seen the movie. I mean, I was familiar with the story, but I had never seen the movie. And they were doing a documentary on it too. So I watched the movie, I watched the documentary, and so it was interesting to like come at it from that point of view. And actually it was one of my listeners, Paul, who will hear me say his name because he listens to every episode. Thank you, Paul. And so he said, hey, I'm a huge Ted Neely fan. He's looking to be on podcasts. So that's how I even reached out to him. And people are like, oh, he's my Jesus. I'm like,
he is my Jesus.
Yeah.
Actually, no, the Jesus from Godspell, Victor, can't think of his name right now, but he was my Jesus. But Superstar, the movie, is one of my favorite all-time movies. And I had a costume party to watch the show, kind of like in a Rocky Horror fashion. You had to come dressed. I played Middle Eastern music. And like when there's the throwing of the bagels, we all had to throw bagels at the TV. And in the thing in the temple with all the the silver and the gold and every marketplace. Everybody was supposed to bring a piece of silver or something sparkly and trade it during that song. And we had a blast.
I love it. I remember there were people doing some work in our kitchen, and I'm like, oh, I'm talking to Ted Neely. And they're like, oh my God, you're talking to Ted Neely? And I was like, I'm like, oh, you're familiar? And he's like, yeah, you want me to sing it all right now? I'm like, that's okay. But it was ready,
Yeah.
because it's like it wasn't just the movie. He's toured as Jesus and Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
He's probably played it thousands of times. And so,
It's hard to make that fresh and work after those many tours.
well, he did it. All right. So
He did it indeed.
but you're my second favorite Jesus I've had on the show.
Even though I didn't have my big Godspell fro.
Exactly. Exactly. Cam, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me on.
I was
Much
a
appreciated.
pleasure. Thank you so much.